Good afternoon, boys and girls. We are here today because we're going to be reading a book called The Mary Celeste, an unsolved mystery from history. And it's one of my favorite books to read with you guys because it is not a fictional book. This is nonfiction. This story really happened. And today, you guys are going to be the detectives that try and figure out what happened. And you're going to be able to do that because of our learning goal, which is I am able to ask and answer questions about a nonfiction text. Now, questions can take a lot of different forms. How big is an elephant? How many babies can an anaconda have? Right? But we're not going to ask those type of questions. We want to ask questions that are going to help us figure out the mystery, okay? And I'm going to help you do that. I'm going to give you some notes, or your guest teacher is going to hand out some notes, and I'm going to show you what to do with them. So when she hands out your notes, the first thing you're going to do is I want you to take across the top, first write your name, and then I want you to write the learning goal on the top so we know what we're doing and why we are doing it, okay? And I'll show you what some of these are going to look like here in just a second. So right now, let's pause this video, pass out the notes, and write the learning goal down. All right, now that you have your notes, you should have a page that has 6 squares on the front and 6 squares on the back. And I'm going to show you what to do with just one of these squares. But I also want you to think about what we're doing today, right? When you read, you have questions that come into your mind. The teacher is not the only one that should be asking questions, and you guys are generally really good with this. You guys always have a lot of really good questions. But I want to show you how you can ask and answer them on your own. Because when I went to school, I didn't really realize that readers could actually have their own questions that they read. I always thought it was the teacher who asked questions and the readers that were supposed to answer them. But I had a lot of questions. So I didn't pay as much attention to my own questions, only the teacher's questions. But believe it or not, a lot of the most important questions to answer are the ones that you have. So I'm going to help you do that right now. So the first thing that I was thinking is, it says it's an unsolved mystery, right? So what's so unsolved about it? So my first question is, what is the mystery? Okay? And what I'm going to do, now that I've asked my question here, and remember, you can ask this question too if you want, and actually I'd like you to do that. Write this question down in the first square that you have, okay? And then when you're done with it, I want you to write a little line underneath it, just like that, and also put a Q. So we know that that's a question. I'm putting 2 dots. My question is, what is the mystery? And hopefully underneath, I'll be able to answer it here in just a second. So I'm going to put an A underneath in my square. Go ahead and do that real quick. Give us a thumbs up when you're ready. All right, are we ready? All right, let's check out this first page here. And your teacher will read this to you as well, but I took a picture of it because I wanted to read it with you guys. So let's blow this up a little bit here. See if we can answer our question. Remember, it is, what is the mystery? And oh, that line is not going to work for me. Okay, I'll put it down here. When I grow up, I want to be a detective just like my dad. He says I was born curious, which is just what a detective needs to be. What I'm most curious about now is my father's file of old mysteries that have never been solved. They have baffled people for years. Dad calls these cases open, but I call them history mysteries, and I am determined to figure them out. For each mystery, I read as much as I can about it. I keep a notebook in which I highlight the most important clues. Sometimes I draw a map and a timeline, and I always keep a list of important words that are special to the case to help me understand what has happened. The Mary Celeste is about a ship whose crew disappeared when they were on the high seas more than 120 years ago. The crew was never found. Though lots of people have ideas or theories about what might have happened, no one is sure. But Dad says no mystery is impossible to solve as long as you have enough clues. This is how the story goes. And we're going to pause right there. Did you hear the answer to my question in that story? If you did, pause this video, turn and talk. What's the answer to my question? Go in 3, 2, 1, now. All right, boys and girls, did you see it? It's right here. The Mary Celeste is about a ship whose crew disappeared when they were on the high seas more than 120 years ago. The crew was never found. So our answer then, the mystery is, where did the crew go? did the crew of the ship go? That's the mystery. Even though it's actually another question, that's the answer to our question. Where did the crew of the ship go? So you see what I did there? I had my question, what was the mystery, and I answered it. Where did the ship go? That's the mystery. Are you guys excited now? I am. But I couldn't help but think as I was looking at this page, there was one word that stood out to me that I didn't know the meaning of. I want to zoom back in on this real quick. There it is. I see it again. What I'm most curious about now is my father's file of old mysteries that have never been solved. And here it is. They have baffled people for years. Now, my question is, what could that word mean? I could write it down, but I'm just going to think here for a second. That previous sentence was all about mysteries that have never been solved. And the they here is the mysteries have baffled people for years. They're unsolved mysteries. I wonder what that word baffled means. I bet it might mean, I don't know. You think. Boys and girls, turn and talk. What do you think the word baffled means? Pause the video. All right, boys and girls, I'm back. This word baffled here, a synonym for that might mean confused. I used the context of the sentence before and the sentence that baffled is in, as well as the sentence after it, to figure out what the word baffled means. Through this story, you may see words like that you don't know either. You can write them down as questions like we did up here, and hopefully you'll be able to answer them. You should do that, but also be thinking. What does it mostly mean? You might have never heard the word baffled before, but you can probably figure out what it means. So now, boys and girls, it is the time when you are going to go down under the carpet and your new guest teacher is going to take over for me. I'll check back in with you guys at the end of the lesson to help you reflect on what you learned today. So I'll see you in a little bit. Just keep the video paused, and when it's time, you guys are going to come back to your desks and we'll do a little reflection. I'll see you then. Pause for now. Okay, boys and girls, it's about time to be back at your desks now. So, real quickly, what we're going to do is reflect on what we learned today. Reflecting is a really, really important part of learning because it helps you cement in your mind what you learned today. So our learning goal again was I am able to ask and answer questions about a nonfiction text. So, what I'm going to have you do is in one of your open squares, I'm going to have you tell me whether you're a 1, 2, a 3, or 4, and why. So I wrote some examples down here about what it might look like, and you do not need to copy these. I want you to put them in your own words. But if you're a 1, you might say something like this. I am a 1 because I was not able to ask questions I could actually answer. If you said, where are the aliens? Where is Bigfoot in this story? Why is the Mary Celeste a boat? Anything like that, you're not going to be able to answer those questions with what you read in the book. They're not that great of questions, okay? So if you asked anything like that, you might be a 1. Let's look at what a 2 looks like. A 2 would be, I am a 2 because I asked a few questions but could only answer 1 or 2 on my own. So if you were listening and you were listening and you were listening and your questions never really got answered, it could be either that maybe the questions you were asking were a little bit off, or maybe you weren't quite listening to the answers, or maybe you didn't hear the answers. Maybe you were trying really hard, but you just didn't quite solve the mystery. That would be a 2, and we'll work on that. If you were a 3, it would be a 3 because you could answer almost all of the questions I asked, and all my questions made sense. And what I mean by that is it's pretty easy to ask a question you can ask an answer to. For example, will the Mary Celeste float? Yes, it's a boat. It's probably going to float. So, if you asked a question like that, that might be more like a 1 or a 2. But if you asked really good questions like, what is sea time? Or, I don't know, maybe something like, what happened to the crew? Did pirates attack the Mary Celeste? Those would be questions that might make you a 3, especially if you can answer some of them. And then finally, if you're a 4, you're going to say, I'm a 4 because I asked and answered great questions and also helped others learn. That could be just by minding your own business, by being quiet. You might help a friend answer one of their questions if you happen to know that they're looking for an answer and you hear it, something like that, that might make you a 4. So what I want you to do, and I'll check in with you on this on Thursday, is on one of the squares in your notes that you have left, tell me, are you a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and why? You can end the video now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.